But we're going to calculate the standard deviation and also the range now for the data set that we were working with in our yesterday's notes. So range should be a really quick and easy one for you to calculate. What is the range of the data set here? Or how would you get the range? 100 minus 66, which is 34. So I've got a range in test scores of 34. You know, that doesn't seem so bad to me, like a 34% range seems pretty reasonable. As a teacher, you might be worried if your range in test scores is like 90, because that means that someone scored really poorly on the test. So you're looking for a smaller range in this case where you have your test scores. So that's really quick and easy measure of dispersion. The standard deviation takes a little bit more work. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create that table. And when I create the table, I'm going to start with my first column, which is to list all my data values. Okay, so I'm going to do standard deviation here. And I'm going to create my table. I'm going to put all my x's in that very first column. So I'm going to have 84, 66, 94, 72, 93. I'll move my screen. It does not need to be in order. If you are writing them in order because you have them listed like in order for your median, that is totally fine. If you put them in order, it doesn't matter. So really, order only matters for median. Let's see where I'm at. 91, 100, 86, and 85. Okay. So column 1, all my data values. Column 2 is the same for all of them. We're supposed to put in the mean. Okay, so I'm going to put the mean into my second column. And we did the mean of this data set yesterday, so I'm going to write this up here. What did you get for the mean yesterday? 85.7. I'm going to say this. When we're calculating standard deviation, because this is our first go-round with standard deviation, it would probably be easier for you if you round that to a nice whole number. So if your average is 85.7, let's round that up to 86 and use 86 in our standard deviation. So we're going to say this is approximately 86. And you can choose to write 86 on all of these. I like to write 86 and put an arrow saying the second column is all 86. Now, remember what I said. It's probably a little bit easier if you do the third and the fourth column simultaneously. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in my titles for the third and the fourth column. The third column is just x minus x bar. So I'm going to be taking my first column minus my second column. And then the fourth column is just x minus x bar squared. So I'm going to be squaring that third column. And remember, in the fourth column, you should never have a negative. If you square a negative, it becomes positive. So all those numbers in your fourth column should end up positive. So I would do it in my calculator just to avoid small errors. And what I would do is I'd start at my very first row, 84 minus 86. Hit enter, and you get -2, right? Most of you have the ability now in your calculators. You have a squared button. Just hit the x squared right away. You don't have to retype -2, and it will look like ANS squared. It means I'm taking the previous answer and squaring it, and then you should get 4. See me if your calculator is not giving you a +4 on that, and I'll come help you with it. But what I'd like you to do next is keep working and fill in the rest of the table. So 66 minus 86 is -20. I'm just going to hit square in my calculator, and it's going to give me a +400.
Can we change it to positive? Because it comes out negative.
I'll come help you if you're getting a negative. So work on that and get the table filled in, and I'll come around and help people who are having troubles with the. Okay, so I know a couple people might be calculating the last ones, but when you get that done, take a minute to look up at the screen and make sure that our last column agrees with each other for all the data values. But I can tell that I'm doing okay because all my data values came out to be positives, so I squared them correctly. Do you guys see any errors in my work, or am I okay? Eric is saying it looks pretty good. Okay, cool. So remember, we still have to do a little bit of work. What do we need to do to finish out standard deviation here? Add up all those numbers in the columns. So I'm going to need you guys and your calculators, because I don't know what they add up to. I'm going to need you to go ahead and add up all these numbers. Somebody said 935, and can somebody verify Cole's work? Bailey's saying yes. Okay, so we added up all the numbers. What else do we have to do? Divide by the total numbers. And so you say 9. And that gets me to what number? 104. And then the last step is square root. Okay, guys. So I'm going to go back here. I'm really square rooting all this work that I did, but I'm going to go back to square root the 104. And what is the square root of 104? Oh, don't square it. Square root it. Square root of 104? Try 10.2. That's your standard deviation. In a minute. Okay, so I want to clarify, what does this mean when you get the answer of 10.2 for standard deviation? Okay, in this particular context, we're talking about test scores, right? So I calculate the average of my test scores, and my average test score for my class is 86. When my standard deviation comes out to be 10, this is saying, if a student didn't score an 86 on the test, it is most likely that they scored somewhere 10 above or 10 below that score. So 86 plus 10 would be 96, 86 minus 10 would be 76. So most of my data, the typical difference, most of my data is between that range of 76 and 96. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow when we talk about normal distributions. Are there people who score outside of that range? Yeah, this is not my full range for all my test scores. It's just my typical difference from the data value. Okay, so I'm just putting that there, and that's not all of my data. Okay, but most of my students score within that range of 10. So what I'd like for you to do next is get started on the homework assignment that goes along with